Gabriel, welcome to the program. Polaris National Security President, former State Department Special Advisor for Iran. Did the president need to have congressional permission before striking Iran over the weekend?
No, he did not. It would have been nice to have. It strengthens the president's hand when he does have a congressional authorization for the use of military force, but the Constitution grants him the powers as commander-in-chief to take all necessary actions, especially in a limited fashion like he just did. There are no forces being entered into conflict. There's no boots on the ground. This isn't us invading Iraq and toppling the government. This is a limited taking out their nuclear program. And so he's under full legal authorization. The Constitution grants him to do this.
And they never said anything about ISIS when he went after ISIS and shut them down. Right? I mean, we didn't hear this argument. Why all of a sudden is this one so different than all of the limited strikes we have seen from all of the presidents recently?
You know, you go back to Libya 2011, you go back to ISIS 2014-15, same scenario. Actually in those cases, those were even more intense military conflicts that we were involved in. And Democrats didn't say anything, Republicans. A few Republicans said a few things, but the reason here is because they want to find something to attack President Trump for, but there's nothing on the policy because this went so well. So they're going onto the legal crutch just because they don't have anything else. But here's another thing. I was in Congress for 4 years. There were votes by Democrats where they said, we want to strip the president of the ability to attack Iran. And they introduced amendment after amendment after amendment, and they all failed. Not a single one passed. I saw probably a dozen of these attempts over my years there. All failed either in the markup process on the House floor, the Senate floor, in the conference. So Congress had the opportunity to stop this if they wanted, and they always said no. We want the president to have the ability to strike Iran if and when it's necessary.
And, you know, I have to tell you, the world has changed. It's not like I have to send a ship to go sailing across the ocean anymore. Within 36 hours, we can leave, our base here in America, be over in Iran, drop bombs, and be back at home, time for dinner the next day. I mean, it's very, very different. And I think it's only logical to say the president should have a limited ability to not declare war, but to respond or to do a limited strike if it is in the national interest. And then if it turns into something else, Congress can, reprimand him if they want, or, isn't there something in the Constitution that's like 30 days or 60 days? They can shut off all the money. If he hasn't declared war and gone to Congress, they can just say, we're shutting off all the money. So, that's not accurate in this particular case because you'd have to have ongoing things. But a president just can't start a war. Congress can act.
You're right.
Correct?
You're right. So back in 1973, at the height of the Vietnam War, Congress was concerned that a lot of that had been sort of unauthorized. So they passed what was called the War Powers Resolution. And that did two things. First, it said within 48 hours of military forces entering a conflict, the president needs to come to Congress and basically tell them what legal authorization was used. And so I expect President Trump is going to do that today. There'll be a legal report filed. The next thing is that Congress said they have 60 days to pass an authorization for force. Or if that doesn't happen, then the president has to withdraw the forces. But here's the thing. The Supreme Court has never ruled that resolution constitutional. And every single president since 1973, Democrat and Republican, have all asserted that is an unconstitutional resolution that was passed into law. So Congress has the option. If Congress wants, they have the power of the purse. At any point, they can defund any war. They can defund the Pentagon if they wanted to. And they could force the president to bring back troops because they don't have money. And Congress has never done so because Congress has always basically, passed the buck to the president.
The idea that the president has to go to the Gang of Eight and alert them before anything happens Does that mean before the decision is made or right after the decision is made? I mean, I know he went to the leaders of Congress just minutes before the bombing started. And quite honestly, if I were the president, I would have done exactly the same thing. I can't trust members of Congress. I mean, look at what they're doing. These members of Congress are so radicalized now. They're marching in the streets with people who are burning our cities to the ground. I don't know what I would have done other than exactly what Donald Trump did. Did he violate any laws or anything with how he handled himself with the members of Congress, the leadership?
No, he didn't. So, the Gang of Eight, for folks that don't know, is the Democrat and Republican Senate Majority Leaders, Minority Leaders, House Leaders, and the leaders of the intelligence communities. Now, there's a tradition that sort of the big secrets get briefed to them, things like Chinese espionage, Russian nuclear warheads. But there's not any legal requirement on this. And I'll tell you, when President Obama killed Osama bin Laden, there wasn't a notification to Congress on that either. And so
didn't hear anything about
more
that.
Of it's more of a tradition of deference to Congress. If you want to tell them special things, you can, but there's no legal requirement. It's really just sort of the way things are often done for big intelligence things. But this is a military operation more than an intelligence operation. So I don't even think this applies in this case.
So let me ask you about something that people like Steve Bannon are saying right now. They suggested that our intel was deep state or informed by Mossad. What intel did you receive during the first Trump administration that would lead you to believe that this is a sincere threat to American interests, not just a justification to help Israel?
A lot of it you don't even have to get the intelligence reports from. It's the fact that they promise, and at the highest levels of leadership, they promise to wipe Israel off the map. They promise to destroy America. So you have intentions there. In terms of capability, what we saw was that they were retaining a secret archive of everything needed to build a nuclear weapon. And they never declared that during Obama's Iran deal. And so even in Obama's Iran deal, they were breaking that from day one by having this secret archive. And then they had a bunch of nuclear scientists working on weaponization activities of the kinds of things that you need to actually physically assemble a warhead and make something explode. And so all of that has been public knowledge for years. And so with respect to our Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, I think it's ridiculous that any country would get to the 99-yard line of getting a nuclear weapon, but say that they don't intend at some point to cross into the touchdown zone.
Right.
I think that defies logic, frankly.
I'm hearing from both sides that, Trump was negotiating and trying to negotiate. And the other side, Iran, says they were never serious. In fact, we'd show up and then they never show up. Can you give me any insight on what the negotiations were actually like prior to the strikes? And do you think things are different now? And if so, how?
I think President Trump was genuinely interested in solving this the diplomatic way. And I'll tell you, he gave Iran very generous terms. He gave them a lot of what they had asked for. He came back a long ways from his position in 2018 to 2020, where he had those 12 demands on Iran. Here, he only had 3 or 4 things that he said were really essential. But what the Iranians did, and they've always done this, is they tried to negotiate every single point. They tried to get more and more and more. And every time they agreed to something, they'd come back and they'd renege on it. And so this wasn't the behavior of someone that wants to solve this. This was the behavior of someone that wanted to delay for time, that wanted to try to extract every concession, not the behavior of someone that genuinely wanted to live in peace with the United States and Israel.
I am so impressed with the team around Donald Trump, especially with Marco Rubio. I didn't know what to expect from Marco Rubio. As a Secretary of State, I think he has been just outstanding. What should his message be to Iran now?
I think it would be this. You guys have the option to respond logically or respond emotionally. The logical path would be to say, look, all our air defenses are gone. Our ballistic missiles are mostly gone. Our nuclear program is gone. It's time to negotiate the terms of surrender in a way that gives us dignity, in a way that allows our government to survive, and to save our people from more destruction and economic misery. That would be the logical step. And then the emotional step is we're going to go attack American bases, extract revenge. And I think what Secretary Rubio should do is lay out really clearly for Iranian leaders the consequences of that emotional path and say, if you do this, you will see your leadership wiped out. You will see the rest of your ballistic missile program wiped out, and you're not going to get good terms of negotiations. So if he can box in Iran's leaders, give them a good off-ramp, saying, hey, here's a realistic path that you can take to preserve your interests and attain peace, but don't take that hard path.
So Rick Grinnell said that he spoke to somebody, an Iranian source on the ground, who said things on the ground are really, really bad. They're locking everybody up in their house. It's martial law. They've already rounded up a group of religious dissidents that they say were spies for Israel, but executed like 100 of them over the weekend. They've arrested hundreds more. I can't remember the name of the religious police. It's I can't remember. Maybe you know, but
probably the Besiege probably the Besiege.
Yeah. Yes, exactly right. And they are on the streets pretty mercilessly right now, checking everybody's phone, their car. It's very dangerous. Do you think there's a chance that the people can rise up, and why hasn't the president encouraged them to rise up yet?
I think the Iranian people want to get rid of this regime, but I will tell you, hearing from Iranians myself, I also hear that they're pretty afraid for themselves. They are trying to evacuate their families. They're trying to find safe shelter. They don't know what's going to happen. And so they're probably not going to take to the streets and overthrow the government right now. But a month from now, if this war is over, that is really the time where they could see their whole leadership crippled and say, we want a new future. And one of the things the Israelis are doing right now, which is really smart, is they are destroying the internal government bureaucracy that is used to suppress the Iranians. So they're destroying, the Gestapo stations, for lack of a better term, all the units which torture people, which arrest people, which monitor people through their high-tech surveillance. They're destroying all these institutions, which used to be the ones that massacred the Iranian people. And so they're paving the way that if the Iranians decide to take to the streets down the road, that they will be empowered, that they'll be able to gain momentum, and that they would be actually successful in those efforts to overthrow the regime.
Gabriel,
I saw President... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please, go ahead. Finish.
I saw President Trump tweet, I think yesterday, he's sort of providing an opening for regime change, and he's sort of saying, look, if the government is not going to do the smart thing, the Iranian people should take control of their own future and change the regime themselves. So that's the first time we've seen that from President Trump in this second administration, where he's sort of encouraged the Iranian people to overthrow this regime. I think that's a smart thing to do. I don't think we can get a full resolution to the nuclear threat while this regime is in power.
Polaris National Security President Gabriel Noronha is with us now. Gabriel, I have hope that this could be a Poland situation if the people would rise up and the regime is toppled. But we have not seen that anywhere else in the Middle East. Is it possible? Is it probable that the Iranian people would choose to go away and become more what they were in the 1970s?
It is possible, yes. I'd probably only give it a 35% chance, though. Here's why I put it that low. It's the Iranian leaders, unlike the leaders in Poland, unlike even Gorbachev, are willing to use as much military force as necessary to kill those protesters and stay in power. And that makes it really tough for them. What you don't have in Iran is you don't have a military group that has power, that has guns, that is able to overthrow the regime. The regime would have to basically collapse under its own weight, under its own corruption, and under its own weakness.
And if it did,
you won't have it removed.
If it did collapse, would it be taken over by other extremists, or is there at least an even shot that the people could have it?
There's a good shot that the people would have it. There's a large number of Iranians who all they really want is a secular government that lives at peace with its neighbors, that doesn't pursue a nuclear weapon, that allows the Iranian people to thrive, build a peaceful future for themselves. That's what I hope happens. I'll admit, small possibility, but something we should all work for and hope for.
Yeah. And pray for it. Great, Gabriel. Thank you so much. Thanks for your service to the nation, and thanks for the update. Appreciate it.